Hello, everybody, and welcome to this extra scrumptious edition of Forks Friday Live. I'm Steven, your customer success manager with Forks Over Knives, and we have a very special guest who you can already see on camera. And most likely, if you've been following Forks, or even if you don't follow Forks, you know who our special guest is. She has been baking since she was 7 years old. Former executive pastry chef at the Santo restaurant in Los Angeles, has released a few different books, including her first one, Unprocessed, The Secrets to Ultimate Weight Loss, and another collaboration with Glenn Merzer. We're here to celebrate her fourth book. And honestly, it is the one that I don't know how I still have it in my hands because I want to just eat it up. It is called Sweet Indulgence, and we are here with the one and only Vegan Hall of Fame Chef AJ. Hi, Chef AJ.
Hey, Steven. Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited because I chose a recipe to make that was, and that still is, the favorite of one of the doctors featured in Forks Over Knives, Dr.
Yes.
Matt Letterman. And when we both lived in LA, it's on page 159, he would order this for me. And I finally said, Matt, I'll just give you the recipe. He goes, okay. And he still ordered it from me. So, and it's really easy to make. It's whole food, plant-based. There's no refined sugar. It's sweetened with dates. And boy, is it delicious.
It is called Tastes Like a Frozen Snickers Bar. And I'm pretty sure that the majority of us out there at some point in our lives have enjoyed a frozen Snickers bar. Now, what makes this Taste Like a Frozen Snickers Bar different from the frozen Snicker bars of old?
Well, first of all, it's vegan or plant-based. So there's no animal products. There's no dairy in the chocolate. There's no refined sugar. I mean, some people think fruit is sugar. I don't. Fruit's a whole food with vitamins, minerals, phytochemicals, antioxidants, micronutrients, water, and fiber. So I'm using dates. But here's the thing. When I was little and I did eat Snickers bars, I became vegan at 17. So I had a lot of not eating a vegan food before then. I'd always freeze my Snickers bars because I always thought, God, they tasted so much better when they were cold and a little bit chewier. And so it's kind of reminiscent because it's not a very chocolatey recipe. I do have a peanut butter chocolate cheesecake that is much more chocolatey. It's really just a thin layer of chocolate on the top. And if somebody didn't like chocolate, they could just, put crushed peanuts on the top. So it's not primarily chocolate. It's really, you know how they say in the Snickers commercial, packed with peanuts really satisfies. So the crust is made out of peanuts. The filling is made out of peanuts or peanut butter, but basically peanut butter is made out of peanuts. And it's sweet, it's chewy, it's caramely, and it's delicious.
It is going to be so delicious to watch it. I think that everyone's going to have to manage their appetites, but get excited about ordering your book and making this recipe. We have a lot of people tuning in from all over, Chef AJ. We have Sarah from New York, Barbara from the Jersey Shore, Cheryl from Iowa, Valerie from Milwaukee, Roxy from Dallas, Texas, Amy from New Hampshire, Laura from Boston, Massachusetts. We got North Carolina in the house. What's that?
I just saw a friend of mine who was featured in Forks Over Knives, John Riley from Placerville. So how you doing?
Hello, John Riley. We have my mom from Lower Makefield, Pennsylvania tuning in. So we have a whole bunch of people who are so excited. Now, the main thing that we're going to be doing is watching you make this delicious meal. But I am also so excited to talk about the vegan, gluten-free, and refined sugar-free recipes in this book as we redefine dessert.
And oil-free, which I know is very important to a lot of people, and especially the Forks Over Knives audience, and salt-free as well. And believe it or not, there's 156 recipes and only 2 you really need flour to make, because I feel like flour, it's okay, but it's pretty refined. But there's 2 that I just couldn't get away without using flour. And the recipe I'm making today, Steven, I don't know what the temperature is where you live, but it's over 100, and you don't even have to turn on your oven for this recipe. So it's pretty cool. Amazing. It's all just done right here and then put in the freezer.
We are so looking forward to this. I want to make sure that you, of course, get to the recipe. I know there's going to be some food processing and such. So, of course, when that's happening, I know to take over with some fun facts from this book. We're going to be sharing a whole bunch of information about this wonderful book, which we'll be releasing on August 27th. We'll be talking about where you can get it, how you can get it, why you should get it, and all the wonderful bonuses with it. Chef AJ, do you want to dive into the recipe, or is there anything else you want to talk about first?
Yeah, I do want to say that the bonuses are worth the price of the book, worth more, because I know that a lot of people like myself, you learn better visually by watching somebody do something. So I actually filmed a video of every single recipe in the book, and it's only available for people that pre-order.
That is incredible. We already have a link out in the comments. We might as well put it up right now just in case people want to get going with it. It is sweetindulgencebook.com. Nice and simple. I'm telling you, I mean, what you're going to see with Chef AJ making the actual dessert is going to be amazing. But we have photos from Hannah Kaminsky for every single recipe in this book, including that delicious chocolate peanut butter stuffed cupcake with ganache that's in there, which I do believe is we have a nice Neil Barnard anecdote about this.
Right, because it was really funny. I had met him for the first time. I was catering an event in the Hollywood Hills, very prestigious, a lot of celebrities, and Dr. Barnard was there. You know, he's always so busy and so kind, talking to people and shaking hands and signing books. And, you know, I didn't really get to talk to him, and he was like leaving, and this car was there, and I ran out with this like one cupcake left, and he appreciated it so much. He wrote me a handwritten thank you note, and that actually became the cover of the book, and he wrote the foreword. So we love Dr. Barnard.
We love Dr. Barnard. You have a who's who of praise for this book, Chef AJ. We have Carly Bodrug, we have Dan Buettner, we have T. Colin Campbell, we have the late Dr. John McDougall and his wife. We have the Esselstyns, Robert Cheek, Drs. Gregor, Ornish, Polday, Letterman, Heather Graham. So many more people are raving about the deliciousness of this book, and also your focus on making delicious healthy, which I know you've always done.
And, you know, they're not random people that endorsed it. Almost all of them, I would say 90%, tasted my desserts. And the ones that didn't were given recipes, you know, like for example, Dr. Brooke Goldner, I never had the privilege of cooking for her, but she made the recipe, you know, so she could vouch for the fact that they're doable, they're delicious, things like that.
That is fantastic. You want to dive in?
You want me to get started? Yeah, absolutely.
Let's do it. I know everyone's taste buds are ready to watch and then hopefully taste once they get the book.
So I've been a culinary instructor for almost 25 years. I went to culinary school late in life 20 years ago. And the most important thing I learned in culinary school on the first day, I'm going to share with you now, because if you use this whenever you make food, whether it's dessert or entrees, it's called mise en place. It's 3 words, a French word, everything in its place. And as you can see, everything I need for this recipe is not only put out, but it's measured. And that really is the secret to making a healthy lifestyle sustainable, by doing some kind of repetitive batch cooking of your favorite recipes. And whenever you make a recipe, have it here. You can't be running to the pantry and the fridge. It'll take so much longer. So that's my number one tip. And you'll see this recipe will go very quickly because everything is mise en place. So the only piece of equipment we need is a food processor. I always say get the biggest and best that you can afford, but it's always better to have a bigger machine if you can, because you can make a smaller recipe in a big machine, but not a big recipe in a small machine. We're using the most common blade, which is called the S blade, because it looks like a letter S, and you want your food processor to be dry. And the reason is we're going to be making a date nut crust here. And if there's even a couple of drops of water because you used it for something else or just washed it, instead of the nuts going into like a breadcrumb consistency, it's going to go into a pesto. And so the funniest thing in the book that people have commented is on the list of equipment is a blow dryer. Because if you don't have time to dry it completely, and even a towel sometimes does it, my sous chef, Rebecca Martinez, noticed that just by taking a blow dryer to it, it gets nice and dry. And that's what we had to do. So I am using roasted peanuts, unsalted peanuts, but peanuts that have been roasted. I personally don't feel raw peanuts taste very good, and they're harder to find. And then I'm using another ingredient that you may or may not be familiar with called pure vanilla bean powder. If you can't find it, you can omit it. Yes, you can use extract, but I find extracts, they just don't have that true vanilla flavor. And also because they're a liquid, they sometimes make my crusts a little bit mushier. And pure vanilla bean powder is basically vanilla beans that have been ground into a powder. And it's much more cost effective than using just the seeds from the vanilla bean. So we're just going to place the nuts and the vanilla bean powder into my dry food processor. And we're just going to process. We don't want to keep it running because this will turn into a nut butter, which we did for another part of the recipe. We just kind of want it like breadcrumb consistency.
Amazing. I know we're going to be doing a whole bunch of blending and stuff. This is one of, again, over 150 recipes in the book. which Chef AJ does an amazing job labeling. We have low fat, semi-decadent, rich and decadent, and different levels of sweetness. So we are truly talking about a lot of lower fat and, only a little bit of sweetness, semi-sweetness in there that'll still get your taste buds going and take care of your body overall.
Absolutely. And I would say that the reason I included the decadent ones is because I understand that not everybody maybe wants to eat the higher fat ones. But let's face it, most people that are vegan or plant-based don't all live in families and communities where everybody is that way. And so if you get them a recipe like what I'm making, they're not going to know that it's vegan and ostensibly even healthier. But most of the recipes reflect the way I eat, which would be consistent with somebody following an Ornish, Esselstyn, McDougall, or Pritikin program. So this is pretty good, but I still see a few of the peanuts in there. So I only whizzed it for 5 seconds. I'm going to do about 5 seconds more. I know because there's a little timer on this. And that's perfect. It was 10 seconds and I have like little breadcrumbs.
Amazing.
And so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my pitted dates. You can use any kind of dates you want. And I know that if you're eating a date, a medjool or a bari might taste better than the deglet nor, but I prefer the deglet nor because they tend to be a little bit drier and I don't want this to be all sticky. And also because I get the best price on them at Costco pitted deglet nor. I've never seen prices as low as the dates at Costco. And they're always fresh because they sell so many. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to run the food processor until it starts to slow down and a ball, somewhat of a ball starts to form. So basically what I'm doing is if you've ever seen the confection called Larabar, which is basically a date nut or a date seed confection, that's kind of what I'm doing. And so this way of making a crust, you can do with any nut, any seed. It's incredible. You can use oats instead of nuts even and do the same thing. Not for this recipe because you want it really peanutty. And then I'm going to press it into, you can use any kind of pan, but if you can get a pan like this, a fluted tart pan, it's really cool because it will be very pretty with the fluted edge. And then after you stick it in the freezer, you can just push it up like this and then it makes it really easy to cut. So I'm going to process now.
Excellent. In addition to all of the designations that Chef AJ has in this wonderful, wonderful book, we also have readily accessible mainstream ingredients. We'll be talking a lot about dates, of course. How about this as a wild fact? The average American consumes 17 teaspoons of added sugar a day. That's over 60 pounds a year. So if we think about what we usually think of as desserts and why we avoid them because they are high in sugar and high in fat, and we make this switch to these whole food plant-based versions where we naturally sweeten with fruit, we can absolutely still enjoy desserts while taking care of our health. And that's where Chef AJ really, really, really thrives. There's so many catchphrases that you have, Chef AJ, that I don't want to steal from you, but I also just want to share because she really focuses on the fruit. The desserts are made with the fruit, the whole fruit, and nothing but
the whole fruit.
Yes, yep. Yes.
So I understand that not everybody's food processor has a little timer like the Breville, which no affiliation to, but it is a very good one if you can afford it. So that was 45 seconds on my food processor. If you have a less powerful one, it may take a little bit longer. The way you know it's done is two ways. One, the food processor starts slowing down. You can always stop it, reach in and grab like a handful of the dough. See if you can make it into a ball. And then see if you can break the ball in half without it crumbling. If you can, I call that the break point and it's ready. So when you think about it, 45 seconds to make a crust, that's pretty amazing when you think about how crusts normally take a lot longer when, bake crusts. And so all we're going to do is we're going to press this into the pan. And so, a kid could get involved in making this. This could be a recipe on itself, this crust. You can roll it into balls. You could press it into little molds and make little, I call it peanut bites. Very quick and easy to make. It's funny because I actually have a story about Brian Wendell, the founder of Forks Over Knives. He had come over once for dinner with Darshana. And I don't know what happened. Either we ran out of dessert or they wanted more dessert. And I made something very similar to this using walnuts and dates and cocoa powder and made a really quick crust and sliced some strawberries over it. And it took like maybe 5 minutes. So I just want to push it up so that it is going to get that nice little fluted edge. If you had not a fluted pan, you could still push it up with an edge, but the fluting kind of looks pretty from the side. Doesn't take that long. Now, if I had a little bit more time, I'd probably stick this in the freezer before doing the next part, but it will work anyway. There we go. And I believe this is a 10-inch fluted pan.
Okay.
And then this is why we have thumbs. Human beings have thumbs so that we can get this crust going all the way up very, very easily. Okay, good. So now I just have to quickly rinse my food processor because the next thing I'm going to do is make the date paste. Now, I could have used pre-made date paste, but I wanted to show you how easy it is to make your own date paste. It's much more affordable than buying it. You can buy it now. It doesn't take hardly any time at all. And that's why I do have some made. I always have some made in my refrigerator or freezer, but I wanted to show you. So it doesn't have to be dry for this because this next recipe isn't dry. So date paste is basically date in a liquid. So in this case, I just soaked my dates in water. And because I wanted it to go more quickly, I soaked it in boiling water. If you have time, you can just soak it in your liquid. It could be a juice, depending on the recipe, orange juice for my orange chocolate mousse tort. It can be any kind of plant milk, but water is free and water is fine. So we have some liquid where the sugar has released from the dates, and you don't want to throw that out. Like when you soak nuts, of course, you want to throw it out. But with dates, you want that soaking liquid because that's where a lot of the sweetness is. And dates are just so healthy. They have so many minerals and they're just so naturally sweet. So all we're going to do is puree this into a lovely paste.
Oh, this is absolutely wonderful. I also love how clean everything looks. Just to show everyone, it doesn't have to be complete chaos. It doesn't have to be difficult. The majority of these recipes are generally few ingredients and easy to make. We'll be talking a bit more about the kitchen equipment that you might need. You're seeing what you may need at home right now in Chef AJ's kitchen. But whether you are proficient in cooking and baking or just starting off, all of these desserts are very accessible for you, not only with ingredients, but also with how to make it.
Right. And I agree. I love different equipments for different things. I have a dehydrator, I have, an Instant Pot, and I have an air fryer. But I would say that the only piece of equipment you for sure need to make most of these recipes is some kind of a food processor. It can be the $87 Black & Decker that you can get at the hardware store. Just going to puree this a little bit more.
Absolutely. And we do have, we're talking about dates so much, about all the different types of dates, the Deglet Nor, the Medjool, the Bari, which I know is a favorite of yours. We have a question about how long does the date paste or syrup, how long does it usually last? Do the dates need to be used right away or can you store it?
Yeah, so that's a great question. I personally, and I've been using dates exclusively as my sweetener since 2003. I gave up refined sugar on July 6, 2003 and have only used dates. I personally have never seen date paste go bad in the refrigerator unless somebody takes a spoon that maybe had something else on it and there was cross-contamination. But it will freeze. I mean, I've had it there for 6 months and it's been fine. But if you're worried, just freeze it. It is absolutely fine. And so now what I want to do is I want to take out the amount of date paste that I need for this recipe. And if there's any left, I will just put it in my freezer. And date paste is amazing. You can use it. We have Halloween coming up in a couple months. I couldn't believe I already saw the trick or treat candy at the store. But you can use date paste to make caramel apples for your kids. It's amazing. So you have dates, date paste, and date syrup. To me, that's the healthiest sweetener. And so what I'm going to do, I don't have very much left, but I'm going to store it. And if you eat like say toast, you can spread it on toast. It's just such a wonderful whole food sweetener. When you buy date paste commercially, the thing is it's in a very hard brick. And so it's not that it won't work in the recipes, but I don't know what ratio of liquid to dates it is because there's no liquid. See, the way they make date paste commercially is if you ever think about a shower head, how there's little holes and the water comes out. Well, a meat grinder, unfortunately, like to make meat, is the same thing. It's called an extruder. And the way they make date paste commercially is they just put the dates through the extruder. So it's this kind of hard brick. My date paste always has a little bit of liquid in it because I want it to be able to process. So now what I'm going to do is make the filling. And to do that, I'm going to use the date paste that I just made as my sweetener. And then I'm going to add my peanut butter. Now, if you cannot eat peanuts, I should have said at the beginning, you can make this with another nut. The only other nut I've used is almonds. I've never tried like pecans or walnuts or pistachios, but for people, when I worked at the restaurant in Los Angeles, I was the executive pastry chef at Sante Restaurant, and there were people sometimes with peanut allergies. We could do this with almond. But my recommendation is either make your own nut butter or go to a store like Whole Foods, or even Winco has it, where they have those machines where literally the only thing in the machine is roasted peanuts or raw almonds or roasted almonds. Because you can see, I made this myself with a machine called the Nutramilk, but even if I had bought it commercially, when I buy it in those machines, you see how wiggly it is? And there's none of that unattractive oil on the top. And by the way, this is vanilla bean powder. I have found whenever I've bought peanut butter or almond butter in a jar, even the best brands, there's always that 1 inch of oil. And we don't want that. And if we throw the oil out, then what's underneath is so hard, you can't even basically, spread it. So I really recommend, for the best taste and the best quality, either make it yourself, which is very easy in almost any machine, from a food processor to a blender, or just go to the store. And that way, the nice thing about getting it in the store is maybe you're somebody who doesn't want to have a lot of nut butter around your house. Well, gosh, then you could literally just get 1 cup. And so now I'm going to add some tofu. I recommend for dessert recipes the silken tofu because it's got this creamy kind of mouthfeel. If you get the water packed tofu, you're never going to get it to cream up. So I really recommend you look for that. This brand is more new. This happens to be extra firm, but if all you could find was soft or medium, that would be fine. And then a little bit, 1 cup of non-dairy cream cheese. Now, for years, I made this myself just with soaked cashews, using the recipe from Miyoko Shinder's book, Artisan Vegan Cheese. But now, even at my local Rayleigh's, which is our local grocery store, I can get this. And this does not have oil. It is made with cashews. There is a tiny bit of salt in it. But I just feel like it's just more, less time consuming for me just to buy it, especially because it's not like I'm making this recipe all the time. So there are other brands made of other things. There's so many non-dairy cream cheese. There's Tofutti, there's Kite Hill, but I trust Miyoko's in terms of quality and flavor. And then now all I have to do is puree this into a creamy filling.
Oh, I love it. Oh, this is wonderful. Everyone, sweet indulgence.
Charles, can you start putting...
we are talking about brownies, cakes, cobblers, cookies, cupcakes, muffins, pies, tarts, torts, cheesecakes, crisps, ice creams, puddings, mousses, and shakes. I almost got all of it out in one breath. But we're talking about so many different types of desserts. And also, we go to the basics. Chef AJ shows you how to make your own milks, your own sauces, your own crumbles and toppings for different recipes and things. So we have full recipes and all of the basic pieces that we can put together to really make sure that we are eating, again, scrumptiously and healthfully.
Now this right here is like a peanut butter mousse. And if you didn't want to bother making the crust, just make a peanut butter mousse. This is so creamy.
I would have so much difficulty not taste testing throughout, but that's also the great thing about whole food plant-based cooking and baking is tasting things. You don't have to worry about raw eggs or anything else.
Can I show you a little trick? A little food processor trick I learned from my sister-in-law about 10 years ago. So there's a lot of product left on the blade, and it's kind of difficult to get that off. A trick you can do is, whether you're making a dessert or hummus, when there's stuff stuck on the blade, just put it back on your food processor blade, pulse it for like 1 second. And what happens now is the blade is almost completely clean and clear. It's called centrifugal force. And now what happens is I have a lot of product that might have been thrown out because people didn't want to clean the blade. So that's a cool trick. So
and we don't want to waste any of that.
Nope, none at all. So now I just want to spread this out on top. And looking for my offset spatula. Here it is.
While you're doing some searching, we do have a couple questions about specifically using the food processor. A couple questions are, what is your specific food processor? And the second question is, can we use a high-speed blender or a Vitamix instead? What are your thoughts on that? And what?
So I'm sorry to say, and I feel like the Vitamix is just a wonderful blender, but blenders and food processors aren't the same. I know that Vitamix makes a food processing, attachment, but the problem is, think about it. Your Vitamix has about this much surface area. Your food processor, much more. And Vitamixes are great for things that have liquid, smoothies, that kind of stuff. and I know some people make hummus in it, but I think you would just burn it out trying to do these in a blender. I mean, you could try, but I just, it's all the pastry chefs I've known, we do these kind of things in a food processor. So I would not do it because I would be afraid it would just tax my Vitamix too much, to do that. So what's
the food processor that you have, Chef AJ?
So I have a Breville, don't know anything. I mean, no affiliation to the company, but it is just a wonderful machine. It's the best I've ever used, aside from the ones we use in the restaurants called the RoboCoop. It comes with this attachment for a little extra charge where you can just push it down and make like pico de gallo in like 2 seconds. It's an incredible machine, and those that have gotten it have really been happy with it. So I don't need to be perfect spreading this out because we're going to have the chocolate topping. Now, if you are somebody that doesn't like chocolate, stop here. And then what I would do, if you want just a pure peanut butter pie, is just sprinkle some chopped peanuts over the top. But let's make the chocolate topping. Now, if we had more time, what I would do is I would actually put this in the freezer just to get it a little bit chilled so that it would be a little bit easier to spread the chocolate topping on it, but we're going to make it work. And so what we're going to do here is this is a nonstick pan, but not nonstick like the bad kind of Teflon. I've had this for 30 years. It's a Pampered Chef pan. I used to be a consultant. It's hard anodized steel, if that's what it's called. And so you can do this over a double boiler. But what I'm going to do is very carefully do this in this pan. I'm going to add a little bit of your favorite unsweetened non-dairy milk. In my case, this is vanilla almond milk. And then I am going to melt the chocolate. When you melt chocolate or when you toast nuts or coconut, always start with low heat. Don't walk away because a second can make a difference between being done or burning. So while that heats up, I'm just going to show you the chocolate that I used. You have options. So ever since I was a little kid, this has been available. It's available even in Walmart. This is just pure 100% chocolate. It's known as baker's chocolate. It is not sweet at all, but that's okay because we are going to sweeten it with a little bit of date syrup. And there's another brand, Ghirardelli, 100%. Both of these are available at Walmart. They're like $1.88. It's incredible how much you can get at Walmart these days. You can even get the date syrup there. If you want it a little bit sweeter, you can now get chocolate chips with only 3 ingredients that are sweetened with dates. You can get these at stores like Whole Foods, Sprouts, and also online. So because these were not available when these recipes were created, I did everything with the 100%. So we're just going to let this melt. And once this is melted, then I'm going to stir in just a 1/4 cup, which is 4 tablespoons of date syrup, which I do get at Walmart. I have a discount code if you get it online, but it's just Walmart's so close. Let me just show you, though. I do buy it when I can. I buy the gallon. Yes. I buy the gallon jug when I can, but it's much easier if you just get the half a gallon jug. This is a lot less heavy.
And the reason it's a long way.
Stephen, the reason I'm comfortable using, first of all, I don't eat tons of date syrup, or I don't even eat tons of dessert. However, my feeling about date syrup and why I prefer it to say, agave, maple syrup, rice syrup, barley malt, molasses, coconut syrup, all those sweeteners, is because if I wanted to, I can make date syrup in my own house. I don't do it anymore. My first book on process in 2010 had a recipe, but it's labor intensive. Just like I can reduce my own balsamic vinegar in 45 minutes, but I can buy reduced balsamic vinegar everywhere, including Walmart now. So once this came on the market, I stopped making it because it takes a long time to make date syrup. All date syrup are dates that have been soaked, boiled, reduced, and blended, nothing taken away. With maple syrup, you need like 40 gallons of sap tapped from a tree to boil down to 1 gallon. With maple syrup, I used to live in Indio, California, the date capital of the world. The dates would fall off the trees. It was so hot. There would be date syrup. So that's why this is a little bit too high. That's why I'm comfortable using it. And so this is melting really, really fast. I'm lowering the heat. It smells so good.
I'm so happy that we're talking so much about dates as we move away from all of the highly processed and refined sugars that we find so often, not only in recipes, but also pre-prepared desserts. We are redefining how we can enjoy desserts in a more healthful way by using the whole food date. So I think that this is an education for so many people to learn about the different types of dates, to learn, how to make their own date paste or date syrup, and how far it can go to bring that sweetness to a very healthy recipe.
Right. This melted like in no time. So now I'm stirring in the date syrup. And here's the other thing. If anybody's familiar with my story, I used to weigh like 70 pounds more than I weigh now. And I was vegan, but I wasn't a healthy vegan. And even though I was a sugar addict till I was 43, having Coke Slurpees for breakfast and Dr. Peppers for lunch, even when I eat a rich dessert with dates, I don't have the same reaction because there's actual nutritional value in the food. Like I said, the fiber in the water, vitamins, minerals, phytochemicals, antioxidants, micronutrients. So whereas I could eat like 6 cupcakes, oops, I got it all over my counter. I can't eat as much dessert with dates. So I'm just going to put this over the top. Got to work quickly. There we go.
We are all watching with bated breath and appetites. And knowing that, to steal another one of your catchphrases, knowing that most people are not going to completely desserts.
Dessert, right.
Right. To be able to have options that are going to bring us those nutrients that we need, that we are not going to overstuff ourselves, that we can still enjoy, and our bodies will tell us, hey, you're full, you're good to go, you got everything that you need. That is such a huge shift from the overconsumption, the gluttonous aspect of the food industry when it comes to sugar, fat, salt, and beyond. So the fact that we're removing those and we're focusing on whole foods, but still we are able to take a look at these beautiful, beautiful desserts that are some of our familiar favorites from the past, including what you are making right there. No, let's go. Let's get the full screen right on that. We want to see it in action. You can listen to my voice, but let's look at the magic in the making. So
I quickly spread the chocolate over the top, and then I am just sprinkling it with the crushed peanuts. I do this for a variety of reasons. One, because I think it looks nice, but also we have a big plant-based community up here in Northern California, and we go to potlucks. And even though everything's labeled, I find that there's always at least one person with some kind of a nut allergy. And often those little pieces of paper with the ingredients, they disappear. And whenever I do any dessert with nuts, I always make sure that it is garnished with nuts, especially if there's a child, so that people can see, oh, wait a minute, it's not a chocolate dessert, it has nuts. And so what I need to do is I need to stick this in the freezer for a few hours. I cannot take it out right now because then it will fall apart, but it's going to be frozen. It'll still be easy to slice. You could get easily 12 slices out of this, maybe 16, depending on your cutting skills. And it will be amazing and delicious. And it didn't really take that long to make.
No, it did not at all. This is on page 151 of Chef AJ's Sweet Indulgence book. Tastes like a frozen Snickers pie. We all would love to come over and taste it, but since we can't right now, everyone is going to have to go to sweetindulgencebook.com. And please, if you enjoy desserts of any kind on the less sweet side or on the really sweet side, this is going to be a sweet gift and addition to your arsenal of cookbooks and recipe books.
It smells so good. It really does. Peanut butter and chocolate really is a match made in heaven.
It is such a match made in heaven. I am so excited to make it myself. Chef AJ, are you okay to answer a couple questions that we have from our amazing audience?
I'm done. I can stay as long as you like.
Amazing. So now when it comes to a lot of these recipes, again, we've talked about the different scale of low fat to decadent, which I believe this one we really went for. This one's more one of the more decadent.
We went to the highest level of fat and the highest level of sweetness, but there are so many recipes that are just, like moderately fat. I mean, some of the recipes, like I'll be honest, like the apple pie rice pudding, when I've done that at Veg Fest, people are like, oh, this isn't sweet enough. But there's always ways to make things sweeter. So for example, in that recipe, apple pie rice pudding, which is basically leftover rice cooked with apples and raisins and spices and non-dairy milk. Well, how would I make it sweeter? You could always add a little date paste. You could substitute a little unsweetened apple juice. So we give tips and tricks how to make things sweeter. And depending on your palate, or whether you've been eating the standard American diet or maybe a junk food vegan diet, some of the desserts won't be sweet enough, but I promise you this one will.
I love some of, Chef AJ lays out all of the ingredients that are going to be used in here. White sweet potatoes are one of the whole foods that are in there. That's interesting. I'd love to see that.
I don't know why this photo is my favorite of the book. It's the German chocolate cake raw version, the mango mousse tart, which is Dr. Goldhammer's favorite, and the cherry squares. And, I really try to include something for everyone in this book. In other words, I have friends that are 100% raw. There's recipes for them. I have dehydrated recipes for people that like to make granolas super crunchy. I have just a couple of recipes, like 2 recipes in the microwave, for people that want to do that. I have recipes in the air fryer. So and what's really fun, I think, is instead of just going in alphabetical order, my wonderful designer, who is a plant-based author in her own right, Janine Elder, made these really fun categories. And let me just tell you what they're called. Bake it, chill it, crunch it, dip it, freeze it, fry it, iron it, lick it, nuke it, pop it, sip it, spoon it, spread it, sprinkle it, squeeze it. And I just think it's a really fun book. And, people have said to me in the past that we really want photos. And so there literally is a beautiful color photo every single of the 156 recipes. Oh, if I can, I got to find the one with the spoon, Stephen. Oh, do you know the photo?
That's one of Glenn's favorite photos, the spoon one, right?
Yeah, find the spoon photo. And I want to just show this last page.
Yes.
A lot of people say it's too hard to make these recipes. I teach a class called, it's a Sweet Indulgence Masterclass. It sells for $597 because it's a small class where I am actually cooking with you, where I'm in your kitchen through Zoom watching you cook. And the first time I taught this class, Luca, who is 7 years old, took the class. And Luca was able to make a very complicated recipe, not complicated, but compared to some of them, the strawberry chocolate cheesecake. He's going to be 9 this year, but at the age of 7, he took my dessert masterclass, and that is part of the bonus. So in addition to a video with every recipe, we're giving you a 20-hour class that other people paid $597 for, so you can really see in depth the process that goes into making these recipes. Did you find the spoon photo, Stephen?
I've seen it so many times, and I'm going to find it.
Here it is. I found it.
You found it.
There we go.
Look at those spoons. All those.
I like this because this was my idea, because to have 156 recipes, the book would have been like 300 pages. So we had to combine a few. And I said this to Hannah. She goes, I don't think it'll work. And it worked beautifully. And it's just one of our favorite photos.
It's the mousse bouche of deliciousness. Chef AJ, to piggyback on what you were talking about, especially because we have so many people who are excited, already ordered the book. It's taking them
Thank
to
you
Amazon.
so much.
They're going to make the pre-order, which is so helpful. We want to get Chef AJ on the New York Times bestseller list with this deliciousness, and those pre-orders go a long way. So please,
I appreciate that so much. And it's not that I don't appreciate you buying my book at another time, because at the holidays, this will make a great gift. But if a vegan or plant-based book achieves New York Times best-selling status, it doesn't just help the author, it helps all of the movement, because then traditional publishers see that there is a market for this, and then more people that have wonderful things to say in recipes will be able to get book deals. And so it's very helpful. In order to qualify for New York Times bestseller, midnight Pacific time on August 31st would be the last time. And orders need to come from other places, not just Amazon, but for example, Barnes & Noble, or A Seat at the Table, which is a local independent bookstore where if you order it from them, it's the one place that I can actually sign the book before it's shipped to you.
And that's incredible too. I am so lucky to have a Live the Sweet Life signed book myself. Now, when people order the book, Chef AJ, what can they do to then redeem all of the bonuses? What's the next step?
Yes. So we have a website, and you're showing it. It's sweetindulgencebook.com, and everything there. And I believe, Charles, we're delivering the bonuses already, right? Yeah. So here's the great thing. You don't have, the book's coming out in like 10 days, I think, or something like that. If you order it and send your receipt in, no matter where you bought it, you can start already. You'll get the bonuses. You'll get the videos. You can start watching. So yeah, it's going to be very exciting. And I really appreciate this opportunity, Stephen and Forks Over Knives. And I thank everyone that's pre-ordered or that's going to order from the bottom of my heart. Also, we're doing the audio of my book on process as one of the bonuses. Oh gosh, we're giving another class. I'm telling you, just look at what the bonuses are. When you see the bonuses, it's a no-brainer, because we're not going to give them after August 31st. I did a class with Lissa Maris, a renowned raw food chef. We called it Make It Raw, Make It Cooked. And we made identical meals of different ethnicities, both the raw and cooked version. That's at least a 6-hour class right there. You're going to get a lot. I swear. We wanted to make the bonus irresistible, because, this was just a dream of mine.
Yeah, just like all these recipes, the videos I know are so helpful, especially for everyone who's just learning to do this. With the receipt, is there information on that website, sweetindulgencebook.com, for sending it into a specific email?
I think there's a form. You click. There's a little button and you click. And of course, if you find that you need help, our email is help at chefaj.com. We will help you. You know, we're not standing by 24 hours a day, but we do, you know, I mean, it's, you know, I mean, because people like, you know, they'll email us like midnight Friday and we get back to a Monday. And no, you know, we're like, you know, regular people, but no, we do monitor the help desk. And so we always, and here's the other thing. You can still claim the bonuses in the future. It's just that the receipt has to be August 31st or sooner. So let's say you forget, and we'll honor it as long as the receipt is in the right time frame. It doesn't matter when you request the bonus. The bonuses aren't going away. It's just the offering of the bonuses will stop at midnight on the 31st. So don't worry if you forget to do it. As long as your receipt says the right date, we will get you that bonus. Yeah, that's it. Claim your bonus.
They make it's nice and easy right on sweetindulgencebook.com. Just follow the directions, pre-order that book. Just wait for it to be delivered. But the bonuses are there for you, so you could probably get started with some of these recipes. Chef AJ, we have some people who've been asking some more specific questions for all of the recipes that are in here. What about people who are allergic to peanuts and nuts overall? What are your thoughts about that?
Yeah, so I'm not allergic to them, but I follow a very low-fat McDougall diet, so I don't eat nuts personally. And as I mentioned, most of the recipes, and I really should count this for my next interview, like to give you exactly, and that note to Charles, let's ask Linda to do this. Most of them are low fat. So a lot of them don't have nuts. But let me just tell you, in many of the recipes that have nuts, it depends how the nut is being used. If it's used as a nut butter, I don't know if I have a suggestion, but in the crusts, for example, like there's a recipe called chocolate faux nuts, which look like donuts, and it's walnuts, dates, for example, cocoa powder. You can make that with oats. So there's a lot of times where you have a nut or a seed and you can substitute a grain like an oat. But, you know, with I don't really have a sub for peanut butter, for example, but I would say at least 3/4, if not more, of the recipes contain no nuts. But that is such a great question that we are going to have the answer to that by Monday, when we're going to have somebody that works for us actually sit there and count the little things. But most of them are not high fat.
And the question also extends for people asking about tofu. I'm pretty sure it's the same. The majority of recipes do not include tofu.
Correct. I personally am allergic to soy, so very few recipes have tofu. However, in some cases, actually, there's only I don't want to speak out of turn. I think there's only 4 that have tofu in them.
Perfect.
You can substitute avocado for tofu. I should have said that in this recipe, especially recipes that are tofu plus chocolate. You can substitute an equal amount, meaning by cup measure, of ripe avocado. I'm getting ready to go to Mexico to Rancho La Puerta to teach hands-on cooking. And we always do my decadent chocolate mousse recipe. And you can't just walk and get tofu in the Tecate market. And so if it doesn't come in time, we make a substitution. And also if somebody's with a soy allergy, so we use avocado in that case. But yeah, I believe there's only 4 recipes with tofu.
And we have a lot of people who do ask about chocolate chips. I know a lot of chocolate chips do have dairy in them, but there are specific types that we look for. What should everyone be looking for with chocolate chips?
So in general, if you want something to be sure that it's vegan, when you look at the nutritional information where it says cholesterol, if it says 0%, there's no animal products. So like if you look at, like, for example, Target has plant-based chocolate chips. They actually label it that way by Nestle's. The clue is to look at the cholesterol, because if it even says 5 milligrams, which is what it might do in some cases, there is some dairy. So these contain basically, gosh, I need my glasses, 3 ingredients. And one of them is dates and one of them is cacao. What's the third one? A cacao butter, I think. So for example, there's different brands that are date sweetened now, but there's also brands like Pacha, I think Santa Barbara chocolate, sometimes Trader Joe's has one that's 100%. There's chocolate chips in the world that are just the chocolate. So you can use those. They won't be sweet. You might want to sweeten them with date syrup, but now you can get at least 2 brands. One is called HU, and one is called Just Date, that is sweetened just with dates. Thank you.
I love that. And yes, these recipes are gluten-free for anyone who's celiac or otherwise.
I have never done a recipe with gluten in my life. And I did that on purpose, after graduating culinary school, because everywhere I go, there's always at least one person that is, and I want that one person to be able to eat. So all my recipes and all my books and on my website, I've never used any gluten. So yeah. And it's interesting because I really want this to be like a vegan book that is going to cross over, but it's like my ratings are always like #1 in gluten-free. And it's like, I want to be #1 in vegan. I mean, it's good though, because then other people, because at Barnes and Noble, they put me in the gluten-free section. So that, therefore, people that aren't even vegan might get a hold of this book.
Yeah. And honestly, I mean, when you take a look at this cover, in my personal opinion, whatever that might mean, a book that's called Sweet Indulgence is going to reach out to everyone. So to know that people can achieve that sweet indulgence while also taking care of their health is such an important thing in today's society, all over the place. The photos pop, the recipes look scrumptious. Obviously, you always emanate this energy about you, and it comes through in the stories, the anecdotes, and everything that you share in the book, which does come out on August 27th. The pre-order is right here with sweetindulgencebook.com. Make sure that when you order, send in your receipt, follow the directions in the website. You're going to get so many wonderful bonuses from Chef AJ. Is there any, I mean, we could talk about so many different things. Yeah. What else? What else?
Do you know Dr. Alan Goldhammer, right?
I do. Yes.
Yeah. You know what so we have the same publisher. So you know what name he suggested for the book? Desserts that won't kill you.
Desserts that won't kill you. We are taking care of our taste buds and our lives with this. That is very wonderfully, deliciously dark humor from Dr. Goldhammer. But yes, that's the thing. We want to be able to indulge healthfully. Chef AJ, thank you so much.
Hey, thank you. And thank you to audience for watching and for possibly getting my book. I really appreciate it. You don't have to dessert if you get your sweetness from the fruit, the whole fruit, and nothing but the fruit. And I hope you'll try this recipe, and I hope you'll enjoy it.
Chef AJ, we've been so grateful at Forks Over Knives to host so many of your delicious recipes. And we hope to get many, many more. Of course, everyone's going to enjoy this book. Yeah.
Yeah. Put some of them in your meal planner now and then. Why not? If you hear
Why not? We are going to talk
a little bit. You got the best meal planner in town. That's a great idea.
Thanksgiving meal plans from you, Chef AJ. We would love to get some healthful dessert meal plans. We're going to talk a bit about this. I'm excited. I want to end this wonderful, wonderful time together with an amazing quote by Dr. Neil Barnard, who specifically does one of the forewords in your book. A plant-based diet solves some of the biggest issues we face in the most delightful way. As a doctor, I appreciate how Chef AJ helps people break away from unhealthy ingredients and starts them on a path towards thoughtful cuisine. That path leads them to a level of health they had not thought they could achieve. To think you could start with a cupcake, that's the gift brought to you by Chef AJ.
Yeah, he's amazing. This is, you mentioned actress Heather Graham. I got to contact her because she used to order this for me. And this made the back cover, the peanut butter chocolate cheesecake. So that was cool.
Yeah. Thank you so much for joining everyone around the world. We all love desserts. We all love taking care of ourselves. And Chef AJ has us covered with both sweetindulgencebook.com, and keep an eye out on the Forks Over Knives website and meal planner. Maybe you'll see some of these delicious recipes from Chef AJ show up there also. For those who maybe only caught some of this, there will be a recording, so keep an eye out on the Forks Over Knives Facebook page and YouTube page. And as always, I'm Steven, your Customer Success Manager, wishing you a most healthful and delicious Forks Friday and beyond. Bye, everyone.